Recorded at WMEB Studios at the University of Maine, it's time for All Three Phases.
The biggest challenge for all these players is to get on our program. You know, for the last 6 months, they've been, a man without a country. They have no team. They have, their own individual, whatever it is. Each guy's been an independent contractor. They've been on their own, and right now, that's all changed. And they can forget about all that, and they need to become New England Patriots.
Malcom. Welcome into another episode of All Three Phases, May 4th, 2015, just days following the draft. Brandon Polai, Cody LaChance here to recap the Patriots picks, and maybe in the end of it we'll get into the draft as an overall. There was a lot of interesting picks and choices all around, but of course we'll obviously start with the Patriots, this being a Patriots-centric podcast. And I'm not really sure where to start. Should we just go down through a list? I mean, we could start with a 30-second pick, which I guess we'll start with what surprised us about the Patriots draft before we get into the list. And I think what surprised me is not it wasn't their decision, but the fact that they were able to get someone at 32 that wasn't supposed to be at 32, but exactly fit their system and was one of the picks that you and I were looking at, and It was a very, very eventful first round for Pats fans, even if they had to wait all the way till the 32nd.
Yeah, I mean, I thought overall the first night, Thursday night, was pretty exciting for Patriots fans. The Shalice Manzi-Young report came out around 11 o'clock or so saying that the Patriots are going to trade out of the first round. I was kind of disappointed, obviously, with Malcom Brown and Eddie Goldman still available. But what was interesting about that report was the fact that the Indianapolis Colts hadn't picked yet. And I think that the Patriots brass kind of jumped the gun and they just assumed that Malcom Brown was going to the Colts because obviously they have serious defensive line issues. They have a big hole up front. They can't stop the run. And Malcom Brown really fits the bill of a guy who can do all those things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest surprises of the draft for me is not even a Patriots pick, is that Colts pick to pass over Malcom Brown. They saw him go straight by, and they picked up another wide receiver.
Yeah, Philip Dorsett out of Miami.
And I thought it was quite humorous. Of course, you and I both follow a lot of Patriots Twitter handles. Some of them more serious than others, some of them more trolly than others, and of course the latter were eating that pick up. Saying, oh, you need help on both your offensive and defensive line. Pick up another weapon. I thought it was hilarious. And I also thank my lucky stars that they made that stupid decision because then that makes Malcom Brown a Patriot now since he was able to drop all the way down to us. But I think he would have been scary on the Colts. He's exactly what they needed, plugging in, plug him into that defense where they've had trouble stopping the run. And, Belichick's running back by committee versus the Colts strategy doesn't work anymore. Regardless, I just thought it was funny. I laughed at it for a good 5 minutes, and then I moved on. And as every pick, Malcom Brown dropped further and further, I got more and more excited. But then, like you said, the report came out that they were going to trade out of the first round, and so I was interested to see who was going to go at 32, who really wanted, who was the big name there that the Patriots wanted to get more picks for. And I'm thinking, Cody, that it wasn't Malcom Brown. I feel like they were looking to trade out of the first round because they thought Malcom Brown was going to go to one of the teams before them. Like we said, both there were a couple teams right before the Patriots who have similar needs, and they were thinking that those teams would be picking up Brown instead. But once those other two picks came in, and the Patriots were on the clock, you heard those rumors start to quiet. And I'm not sure. Maybe it was a miscommunication between reporters, but I seriously think the Patriots stopped all their trade negotiations when they found out that Malcom Brown was still on the board at 32 and then just said, nope, he's ours.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even think he got to 32 when they stopped that. I think that once they got wind of the Colts taking Philip Dorsett, that was when the trade talks really stopped.
Right.
I think they had an idea that Green Bay was going to go Demarius Randall, I believe, a safety out of Arizona. I'm not 100% sure. But then New Orleans went linebacker out of Clemson, Stephon Anthony, a guy that I liked for the Patriots. So I think once every team knows every other team's needs pretty much in the draft. They have a pretty good idea of who teams like, Obviously within teams they know way more than the media. So I think Bill knew Malcolm Brown needed to fall past Indy. He didn't think Malcolm Brown was going to fall past Indy. So that's why he called up Billy O'Brien and said, hey, you want to sneak back into the first round? We need a second. We need a third, maybe next year's second, because Houston picked relatively late into the second round.
Yeah.
When reports came out they traded to Houston, I was hoping for Houston's 2016 first-round pick. I thought that would be good compensation as well. But then when the report came out, and I was thinking the same exact thing. When Indy selected Philip Dorsett, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is a bad move. I really don't like criticizing the Patriots in their draft because obviously they do very well. Are they the best in the NFL? I'm not going to say that, but they're one of the top teams in drafting players and assessing talent.
Well, I mean, NFL.com gave them a B rating this year, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, but so I was just disappointed because, like I said, Malcolm Brown and Eddie Goldman, two players who can instantly come in, make a difference on this team in 2015 and going forward, were going to be there at 32. And you were going to trade out. I was very disappointed. And then when news came in, I think it was Jason LaCanfora of CBS Sports came in and just said, hold the phone. Patriots look like they will pick at 32. And then once he said that, I knew it was going to be Malcolm Brown. How did you know? Anyone that has been following this team for any stretch of time during this draft process has known that it would be Malcolm Brown, the heir apparent to, like you said, of Vince Wilfork. The fact that Matt Patricia was at the Texas Pro Day, it wasn't, one of their lower level scouts. I mean, besides Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia is probably the second in command. He is the second in command on that defense, really. So the fact that Bill wasn't there, but Matt Patricia was there, showed that Malcolm Brown was very high on their radar.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was only because the Colts passed on him. The timetable got screwed up in my head because I spent that entire time retweeting every funny thing I read about the Colts at the time and didn't realize that at that exact moment was when people had leaked that the Patriots were no longer trading. I know you and I were extremely disappointed when we heard the trade, but then every pick that I look at or every decision that I look at in this draft that I look at with some contempt or with some question, I always just have to remind myself, listen, Bill Belichick is a 10 times smarter person at the game of football and the NFL system than I am. And we now see in hindsight that would have been a good pick if Malcolm Brown wasn't there. But then as soon as they saw that he was going to be there, they jumped immediately on it.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, I'm very happy with the pick. I wasn't quite jumping up and down like I was last year when they took Dominic Easley.
I mean, you and I were pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to be a great player in the league. He is. It's hard to miss on big defensive tackles that you take in the first round. It's just one of those positions that, I don't want to say there's, it's a can't miss, but it's hard to pick a guy like that. And everything you read about this guy, it seems like he is the perfect Patriot. He has, quote unquote impeccable character, hard work ethic. He's big. He can plug the run. He can get it after the passer a little bit. He's very versatile. What kind of interests me about him is, hold the phone on him being, I think he'll help replace Vince Wilfork, but I don't think he will be in the middle every single play. I think that this is a guy that they might be able to kick out to the end some more. He played defensive end in Texas. Like I said, he's got a motor. He's pretty quick. He can get at the passer. I really think that you could see Malcolm Brown play, I'm not going to say a lot of defensive end, but if he lines up on the end, don't be surprised.
I think what people were getting so excited about was the similarities between Wilfork. I mean, their position, their size, their friggin' face looks the same. And so people were like, oh, this is literally new Wilfork. This is Wilfork Jr. And also, you talk about his character. I'm pretty sure at his first interview as a Patriot after getting drafted, he said, I'm the best draft pick they've ever drafted, taking a page out of Tom Brady's book. And we saw how that worked for him. Granted, it was a little bit more of a long shot coming from Brady being picked in, later rounds as opposed to a first-round guy saying it. But, I mean, I like the heart. It's that type of attitude that I think you need to have if you're going into an NFL system like this. But I have a feeling that with his character, he'll have no problem fitting into Bill's system. As we heard in the clip at the beginning of the episode, it's now time for them to become Patriots. They've had either their own systems or their school's systems, and now they need to, like Bill said, just become Patriots, and that's how they're going to integrate. So we've talked about Malcolm Brown a little bit. We could just go through the rest of the picks in order. Second pick, the 64th overall, they took defensive back Jordan Richards out of Stanford. It was quite interesting to see. I know you and I have been harping on not picking, defensive backs, but he seems like a decent player according to. I'm reading Pat's Pulpit's read up on him. Not a player I was really looking at for the Patriots to draft. Was one of those where do they come from picks, like they weren't on my radar. I mean, he might have been on your radar a little bit.
Absolutely not. I never heard of him before.
Really? That's actually surprising to me because you're much more of a draft guru than I am.
This is a guy that granted, NFL.com, there's a difference between media projections and in-house projections, obviously, but they projected him in the 6th or 7th round. So I had never heard of this kid. I might have seen a tweet come out that he took a visit to New England, or they scouted him at his pro day, had an interview with him, but I didn't think much of it.
Yeah, I actually at first was like, oh wow, they're picking a 6th round guy in the 2nd round. That's typical Pats being weird and whatnot. But I've already said it. I will mostly never critique Bill Belichick's decisions. He saw his guy, he went up and got him. And granted, if he got him a little bit early, that remains to be seen. It is only 3 days away. It is only 3 days removed from the draft, and the season is way far from starting. So it's going to be a while before we can see that.
Yeah, but this is the fun thing that we do. We can criticize, and you know what? I am going to criticize. This
Go ahead, do it.
I thought that taking a guy that you probably could have got later on, this reminded me of Tavon Wilson in 2012. It reminded me of Deron Harmon in 2013, I believe. It was just a pick that I didn't really see much use for. And granted, it's nothing against Jordan Richards. He seems like a perfect Bill Belichick type guy. They called him Coach Richards at Stanford. He knew the entire playbook. He knew everyone's responsibilities. He's a great special teams player. It looked like he will become kind of another Matt Slater type player where, he's going to project to being a top-notch gunner, but then also he'll be able to play a little bit on defense in some of those sub packages. He can split time with Deron Harmon as, the safety opposing Devin McCourty. But really, you spent the 64th draft pick on a guy that, you're going to have as a special teams player and, very rarely a defender. And there's nothing against special teams. I love special teams. There was a guy they took in the 5th round that I'm going to rave about special teams. But I was just very disappointed in this pick. You hadn't addressed offensive guard. You hadn't addressed linebacker yet. Even if you want to go defensive back, you didn't address corner yet. And granted, I'll take corner off just because I think that most of the top-notch corners that you should have taken in the 1st or 2nd round were gone. But I was very disappointed with this pick. At the time, more than I am now, because we'll talk about it later. But pretty much, I think if you flip-flopped their 4th round with their 2nd and 3rd round, it all averages out. The guys they got in the 4th round, I had 2nd and 3rd round grades on. So it did work out. But still, I was just shocked they took this kid here. Obviously, they know more than we do. I hope that he is phenomenal. I hope that he is the next Matt Slater. I hope that he's just a great player. And, we can look at Bill and say, wow, he saw Jordan Richards. And you know what? I saw this on Twitter, and it made me sick. Someone said, oh, well, nobody had heard of Richard Sherman when he was taken in the 5th round from Stanford. Like, easy. If this kid turns out to be a top-notch safety, if this kid turns into the next Earl Thomas or Devin McCourty, great. By all means, wonderful. I hope he does. But right now, I can criticize it a little bit. He made the pick, not me. I wouldn't have taken him. I would have taken a guy. Eli Harold was there. You know how much I love Eli Harold.
Absolutely.
I think Danielle Hunter, a good defensive end, was still there. They addressed defensive end linebacker in the next pick. We'll talk about that in a second. But I just thought that where they were right there, you don't take a special team safety player. You take another guy that should make an impact either this year or into the future. You look at what they did last year. They took a defensive tackle in the 1st round. Then they took the quarterback, heir apparent of the future, Jimmy Garoppolo, in the 2nd round. This pick, I don't really know. I hope this kid plays well. By all means, he's going to be on the team. He's a great character guy. Let's see. I don't know.
Well, the same issue with saying, well, no one knew who Richard Sherman was in the 5th round is kind of the same as no one knew who Tom Brady was, which is the same as
there
saying,
you go.
which is also the same as saying the Pats have won the Super Bowl every year that their 1st round pick has been
a defensive tackle.
Yes, which this year it also was.
Yeah.
So
Illuminati confirmed.
Illuminati confirmed. I seriously trust Bill with this pick. He knows what he's looking at, and he's got something up his sleeve. I could tell.
All right.
But
I will say this though, really quickly here. I am by no means am I great when it comes to X's and O's, But reading around online a little bit, it seems like this guy projects to be a really good addition to when they run their 4-2-5 defense, when they have the four, their sub packages of 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and then you have 5 defensive backs when they mix in and mix out. I guess he's pretty good in space. He's pretty good zone coverage. He doesn't have top-notch athleticism, which scares me, but what he makes up for his quick decision-making and his, football IQ for that lack of athleticism. My worry is, what happens if in the Super Bowl next year when Jimmy Graham is barreling down on him, and yeah, he made the right read and he's there to tackle Jimmy Graham, but then he gets run over. But I don't know. Well, he wouldn't get run over by Jimmy Graham because Jimmy Graham is a big wimp.
I would say
soft.
Aren't you saying he's soft?
Yeah, true. But anyways, you get what I mean. We'll see.
I get it. It depends on his size and how he plays. I'm reading from Pat's Pulpit right now. It's a good source, and they are saying that he could challenge Chung and Harmon for playing time. But
yeah, definitely Harmon. I disagree with Chung just because I think Chung is such a good in-the-box safety. I thought that this guy's more of a zone coverage safety. I think Chung's job is pretty safe. Granted, I don't really think they needed Chung without Revis now because you're going to have him cover more, and he isn't very good at that. But still, I just, I don't know. We'll see. It was a very, very interesting pick. For as happy as I was when they took Malcom Brown, right after the Jordan Richards pick, I was just shaking my head saying, Bill's doing Bill things. This was Tavon Wilson. This was Deron Harmon. This was Razai Dowling. This is one of those picks. But, hey, like you said, in the hoodie we trust. Hail to the hoodie. We'll see.
So the Patriots had 2 back-to-back picks in the third round, the 96th overall and the 97th overall. They traded the 96th to the Browns for 3 picks, one in the 4th, one in the 5th, and one in the 6th. And then with the pick directly after that, the 97th pick overall, they picked linebacker Geneo Grissom out of Oklahoma. And I think what interests me about this pick the most is the fact that, as I'm reading here, Bill Belichick struggled to contain his excitement over this pick. And Bill Belichick, he's not one to show a lot of emotion, but only when he's really, really into something.
Yeah, I think Bill was half trolling everyone, though, because the first night when they, after he took Malcom Brown, everybody's, praising him and kissing his feet. He was kind of like, yeah, we'll see, we'll plug him in the system. We'll see how he fits and give him an opportunity to play.
It's not as good as Edelman's Belichick impression, though.
Yeah, but anyways,
I've been in the league a couple of years.
Yeah.
I've seen a thing or two.
But anyways, I just think, he was very excited about Jordan Richards, and he was more excited about Geneo Grissom. I look at Geneo Grissom as a little, a notch below what a Jamie Collins was coming out of college. He doesn't have quite the athleticism as Jamie Collins. I'm not saying he projects to being, a player like Jamie Collins, but he's kind of that tweener where, he never had a position in college, which made him hard to evaluate. That's one of the things that a lot of top-notch prospect scouts and, NFL-type scouts, even not just the professional guys, but some of the guys that are just on Twitter that do a great job. He was one of the most polarizing prospects. They said he was hard to pick a position for. He was hard to evaluate. I'm excited about this kid. I'm way more excited about Geneo Grissom than I am Jordan Richards, just because I think Geneo Grissom is kind of one of those, blank slate players that Bill loves to manipulate. He's one of those guys that can come in, give him the coaching he needs. Will he be a Jamie Collins? Will he be, a Chandler Jones? No, I'm not saying that, but he will be another versatile piece in a front seven where, we've had this discussion a lot, and I think, we'll have it going forward again when we start talking about, how all these players project to, playing time on the team and strategy, but this is just another chess piece in that front seven. Geneo Grissom is a guy that you can put his hand in the dirt, he can help stop the run, he can get after the passer, but then on the, on the next play, you can stand him up and you can put him at weak side linebacker if you want. He is that versatile. He's athletic. He had one of his best games against Alabama, which is, a team that you don't shake a stick at. That is a very good team. So he has been able to do it in big games. This is another one of those guys that I had never heard of. I was shocked with the amount of, the second day I was very surprised that I had never heard of either of these guys, but, that's the way it goes when you follow the Patriots and their draft strategies. I'm excited about him. I think that most Patriots fans should. We'll see what they do with him, but I like the pick a lot. It's not an A+ home run like Malcom Brown, but it's a guy that can make a serious impact going forward, I believe.
It's a solid B+. It's a very decent pick, especially the type. You look at the type of player that he is. It fits in well with the system. You could put him anywhere on that front seven, and he will just dominate. Bill loves those type of players, and we talk about not really the overall grade of the player as they stand out by themselves, but as they fit into your system. And I think he's a great fit to the system, much like Malcolm Brown was, much to some people's argument Jordan Richards is. So we'll see how they work out when the season comes along. So I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but that last pick was from the Aqib Talib trade, and this one is from the Logan Mankins one. The 4th round, 101st overall pick, Trey Flowers from Arkansas, slated as one of the best run defenders and pass rushers in the league.
This is a guy I'm sorry to jump all over you, but this
Fine.
is besides the Malcolm Brown pick, I really think that this is one of their other A grade picks in this draft.
I feel like they've got 2 more after this.
Well, I think that this is potential to go for a home run hitter. This is a guy that I had read a little bit about him. I thought he was more of a day 2 prospect and that he'd go in the 2nd or 3rd round. I didn't know if once they went Malcolm Brown in the 1st round, I was unsure if they'd go straight up defensive line again the next day. Obviously Geneo Grissom you can say is a defensive end, but I look at him more of a linebacker. But, Trey Flowers is a guy that I think will pay dividends for this team going forward. Like you said, Pro Football Focus lists him as one of the top run-stopping and pass-rushing ends in college football last year. He played at Arkansas, obviously a big school. He plays big competition. And you know what? One of the funniest things about the kid that, he's got a sense of humor that I like. Obviously we talk about a lot about character and how these teams match because I really do believe that football is a sport where, chemistry matters. And
look at all the Patriots in the last couple of weeks doing off-season things together, even former Patriots joining them.
Yeah, and there you go. So, and I think that in his conference call right after he got drafted, he said that he draws inspiration from the Water Boy, and he has been known to scream like Bobby Boucher when he makes a tackle. I mean, it's hard not to look like a kid like that. I think that he projects to be, similar to a Jabal Sheard. By no means am I saying he'll be as good as Jabal Sheard, because you know how much I am excited about Sheard playing in the system.
He also draws comparisons to Rob Ninkovich.
Yeah, I mean, he's a kind of a guy that he can do it all. I think he's more of a defensive end than a linebacker. Geneo Grissom is more linebacker than defensive end. But both of these guys, you can mix and match them. You can play linebacker. You can play defensive end. It's stopping the run that makes me excited about him. Everybody says, oh, we got to get pass rush. Well, if you just try to rush the passer every time, you don't account for the running lanes on either side of you, then teams can run all over you all day. It's the fact that Trey Flowers can do both. You can keep him in on all those NASCAR sets where you just go get the quarterback, but then again, you can have him in there on 1st and 2nd down when you know that it's, typically going to be more of a running down. It allows them, it's all about versatility with this team. The fact that you don't know what any one guy is going to do because all these guys can do so many things. It's like when you play the Broncos, you look at them. Von Miller is one of the best probably the best pass rushing linebacker in the league. That's all he can do. When he lines up against Gronk, I think it happened in their only matchup this past year. He went and covered out Gronk out on the outside. Like, oh yeah, okay. Like Brady threw right to him, touchdown. Like, those are the things that you need guys that can do multiple things so teams know that, if Jamie Collins lined up against Gronk on the outside, the quarterback probably think, I don't know. He can cover and get after me. I don't really know what he's going to do. But Von Miller, yeah, give me a break. That's the kind of guys I like. Trey Flowers fits the bill. Look for him to really make an impact this year. Ease him into the system. I bet by the end of the season, Geneo Grissom and Trey Flowers both play pretty predominant roles on this defense. I'm not saying they're starters, but they're going to be very, very key in, being in, as substitutes, as guys if somebody goes down. Really good insurance for Chandler Jones and Rob Ninkovich, since they put a lot of miles on their bodies the past 2 years. They were 2 of the highest played defensive ends. Now they have some rest. Now they can keep those legs fresh, and I think that their stats will only go up from there.
Moving on to another 4th round pick, the 111th overall from Florida State. So obviously I'm happy with this pick. Offensive guard Tre Jackson. You mentioned their need for guards earlier in the show in that chronological order of the draft, and these next 2 picks got them. And this one is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite in the draft. FSU guy, I've been gushing about these guys all year. NFL ready. They could easily come right in. For a teammate of their current center, Brian Stork. And you and I talk a lot about, the guys up front, the guys on the offensive or defensive line who have those attitudes, those chippy, mean, tough guy goon attitudes on the line, because those are the ones that do the best. They block the best. They have that intensity. And when you look at someone like Tre Jackson, While he may be limited as an athlete, he's huge, and he's slated here as he loves to run block. Someone who loves to run block, that in itself sounds like the type of guy I want on my offensive line. He gets joy out of making a guy go the opposite direction of where he wants to go. I am really excited about this pick. We definitely need offensive line depth and help. And I'm not saying Tre Jackson might come in and start, but if he were, he would be right on that line with Brian Stork, who came in last year as a rookie and just was absolutely amazing at center. So they've got that connection already, as they were teammates at Florida State. And he says he's a day one starter. I'm not saying he will, but I could definitely see it happening. I could definitely see it working out. I've watched some videos of him on the draft profile, and just he's just a monster. He's an animal. I'm loving this pick. This is one of my favorites of the draft.
Yeah.
This is one of my highest graded picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with him that it kind of leaked out that he had quote-unquote knee problems that they didn't check out in some of his pre-draft physicals. I think that might have been a Mike Mayock doing Bill Belichick a favor there by leaking that information. I know Mayock and Belichick are very good friends, and I know that Mayock has said some things like Ryan Mallett has first-round arm talent. So I think that might have been something there because Bill said, hey, Mike, I really want this Jackson get on FSU. Can you leak story about him or something? But I just think that it wouldn't surprise me, if he did something like that.
That's how the world works.
That's
nowadays.
how it works.
Yeah.
But
it's the unfortunate truth. But hey, it worked out in our favor if that's the case.
I think that you're gonna love this tweet, Brandon. But Rick Trickett, I believe he's the offensive line coach at FSU. He's had a quick call with Jeff Howe from the Boston Herald to talk about the FSU Tre Jackson, the FSU prospect Tre Jackson going to the Patriots, and he said, I wish the Patriots would take all my guys because they're about the only damn team that knows what the hell to do with them.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
I think he said
hashtag bring me more Knowles.
Oh, God, I can't find it now.
If I had an offensive line full of Florida State Seminoles, I would be the happiest person in the world. You wonder why Jameis Winston was so good? Look at his line. Look at the protection he had. I can't find the quote now. I'm sorry. But the other quote that Trickett had, or one of the other ones that was so good, was he pretty much just said that looking at the guards that went before Tre Jackson, they aren't even able to hold his jock because Jackson is that good. But Jeff Howe had a story all on Tre Jackson, and he had some more PC quotes that went in the Herald, and I think this one is very good. It goes, I think it's a great thing, the working combination between him and Stork, Trickett said. He is a great guy. He is a Patriots kind of kid. He is everything they want. He has never missed a meeting, a practice, or a game here in 4 years. He's that kind of guy. He's a great person, has got a great family, and he'll be a great football player. He's got an edge on him now. He's wanting to show people who slipped him down to the 4th round. I think they got a 2nd-round player in the 4th. And really that's where we're going to start having this discussion of, I think if they switch their 4th-round picks in the upper, in the 2nd round and the 3rd round, and then those two guys, Richards and Grissom into the 4th round, everyone would have been happy with it. If they took Tre Jackson with the 64th pick, I would have been jumping for joy. The fact that they got him at, 111? That was amazing.
That was amazing.
Incredible.
So, and I kind of looked into it a little bit more. The knee problems, those are reports back when he was in high school. I'm pretty sure when he was a sophomore in high school, and he never missed a game at FSU. It might add up after a while, but I think they're going to be all right. Like Trickett said, he's never missed a game, never missed a practice, anything. I just really think that, this is a good pick. I think he is an instant starter. I think this is your starting day one right guard at the minimum, if not left guard material. This guy's being compared to, they call him the road grader. He is nasty, he's mean, he's aggressive. I think he needs to develop into a little bit more of his pass protection. But in terms of running the ball, I think it's going to be a big year for the Patriots running the ball there. And then with their next pick, they brought in another guy who can, help run block.
Yeah, no, the next pick in that 4th round, 131st overall, another guard. You were raving about we need guards earlier in the draft. Well, how about Tre Jackson followed by one of your favorite picks in the draft?
I was so happy.
Shaq Mason from Georgia Tech.
Say his full name.
Shaquille
Olajuwon Mason. I'm not kidding. That's his name.
Is it so? It's like Olajuwon, but Elijah. Elijah
Shaquille Olajuwon Mason. I'm pretty sure it's spelled the same way. I'm pretty sure his parents were huge basketball fans. I'm not kidding.
That's nuts.
Yep.
That's a dope name.
Yep.
So, unlike Jackson, he has little experience in the passing game, but it's another guard. It's another steal. Both of these picks should have been gone much earlier in the draft, according to a lot of people.
Well, I don't know. Tre Jackson, yes, I'll give you Tre Jackson. This is right where I thought they would get Shaq Mason.
Really?
I really thought he was more of a fourth round guy.
I've seen people combining those two as just like the steals of that round.
Well, I think it was the fact that you got them back to back. The fact that your interior offensive line was so weak all year. I mean, so weak. I'll say it needed to be adjusted. And then the fact that, they turned it around so quickly. They got Tre Jackson, like I said, a guy who projects to be a starting guard on day one. And you got a guy in Shaq Mason who was a center in college, but probably projects to more of a guard in the pros. This guy is, I think that a lot of prospects had him as one of the top run blocking offensive linemen in this draft. He needs to develop into a better pass protector. Obviously, the Patriots are going to throw the ball a good amount, so he does need to work on that. But this is a kid, again, another, I think he was a team captain at Georgia Tech for his senior year. Leader, hard worker. I got to imagine that Dave DeGuglielmo, as much as, we ranked on him at the beginning of the year, I think that he's a great offensive line coach. He'll come in, he'll help, mold these guys into more pass protectors. And I really do think that you have a interior offensive line. By no means am I saying they're the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, but you thought that the offensive line got good last year. Wait till you see Solder, Jackson, Stork, Mason, and Volmer. By the end of the year, if they start all those five guys and they get in a rhythm, that line is going to be good. I think that you might have made Tom Brady be able to play an additional year just by investing in
an additional year, as in 2016, 2017.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I think that you extended his. I'm not saying he's gonna play another year per se. I'm saying that he will be the Tom Brady another year, just because he shouldn't have the same wear and tear on his body, because these guys are gonna keep him upright in the pocket. They're gonna let him do what Tom Brady does. Not only that, but if they continue to do a lot of game plans like they did against the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, where it was 2 seconds or less, he was getting rid of the ball, short, quick routes. I think that Tom Brady he's going to have a lot of games where his jersey doesn't get too dirty, and that's what we want to see as Patriots fans when you have a quarterback entering. I think it's going to be, his 15th, 16th year now, and the fact that he's going to be 38 this year in training camp, and we want to see him play as long as he can. No offense to Jimmy Garoppolo, but come on, he is the GOAT.
Moving on to the 5th round, the Patriots had 2 picks there, traded one of them out to Green Bay for the 160. Well, they had 1 pick, and then they traded out for a deeper pick. They had the 147th and moved to 166th, trading to the Packers, and then they got a 7th round pick. And with that 166th overall pick, another one of Cody's favorite prospects, because he called it over everyone else, long snapper Joe Cadona from Navy, someone we talked about in one of our draft previews that I was like, I could see Bill doing that, but going for him in the 5th round, just another typical Belichick move. I actually like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 5th round. I think rounds 1 through 4, those are the guys that you should have a pretty good clue on. Well, I mean, they know what they got in Joe Cadona. I think that your rounds 1 through 4, those are guys that can make an immediate impact year one. Guys, and if they don't, they project to being, pretty important pieces going forward. A guy like Joe Cadona, I think that, it was a good pick. A lot of people will be like, oh, long snapper, you should be able to just pick one up. You should just, you shouldn't have to draft a long snapper in the 5th round.
What speed does he snap the ball at?
Yeah, he's reported at snapping at over 40 miles an hour.
Wow.
I mean, what's considered good is 35 miles an hour, I read too. So that is pretty fast. He's accurate with the snaps. And we've seen it, if you don't commit on special teams, not only does it, it has a, impact on the game, but it's just the mentality of the team. A bad long snap, a missed field goal, a team running a kick all the way back. Those are huge momentum swings. It's the fact that, what is it? All 3 phases of the game. That's what you need to own. I think that the Patriots really showed that in this draft. They are going to commit to special teams. They're going to continue to commit to him. Jordan Richards, a guy that, I criticized earlier this show, he projects to being a very important special teams player. Joe Cadona, projects to being a very important special teams player. Another guy coming up we'll talk about, Matthew Wells, a linebacker out of Mississippi State. Another guy that looks like he could fill that gunner type, special teams mold, a fast guy who can tackle in space. I really like the Joe Cadona pick. He's a Navy kid. Everybody knows how Bill has a soft spot for Navy guys, obviously with his dad being, such an important piece of that football team for so long. I was happy with the pick. I wanted him because I had him on my big board there. I had him as my last prospect. I thought they would get him as an undrafted free agent. I really didn't think that he was going to go in the 5th round. I think I texted you, I said, if they take Joe Cadona here, I will be so happy. And then they took him, and, I like the pick. Long snapper is one of those things where if you aren't noticed, you're doing a good job. When you get noticed, something bad really happened. I hope that Joe Cadona is one of the guys that we don't really notice. He just does his job day in and day out.
Well, I mean, you and I are going to notice him because we've done our research, but you're talking to the general public
there
because if a long snapper is noticed by
he messed up.
Majority of the NFL fan base, it's akin to the center for the Broncos muffing the first snap of last year's Super Bowl, and we all know how that ended up. But
so I don't know. I really like the pick. We have the issue. They have the issue now of dealing with his regiment and the fact that he went to Navy. So now I think he has to try to get out of that commitment. But I have to imagine that Belichick has some pull there. He knew what he was doing when he drafted a Navy kid. I think that you will see Joe Cadona in camp. He seems very excited, and not only that, but Belichick told Cadona and his agent, "We are drafting you." The agent said something like, Coach Belichick lived up to his word," which led me to believe that there were talks of, hey, get ready for a phone call. We're taking you. Nobody else is going to take you. And it's that type of commitment. I really think that Steve Belichick is smiling. Wherever he is right now, he was looking down and smiling at his son taking, a Navy player, and, I like it too.
And moving along to the 6th round with 178th overall, they picked linebacker Matthew Wells out of Mississippi State. Another good linebacker who, trying to load that front 7, trying to keep the pressure on the quarterback for lack of defensive backs.
Yeah, I think that he's a guy that's you're gonna see him on special teams a lot. James Morris is another guy he compares to on the squad right now. I think he ran like a high 4.40, which is phenomenally fast for a linebacker. I think he was the fastest one, or he would have been the fastest one at the combine. Special teams player, he can tackle in space, he can get after guys. I fully expect to see him either on the practice squad or, fielding kicks. The next guy, we have the 202nd overall pick from the Cleveland trade that also netted you Tre Jackson, A.J. Derby, who a lot of people were excited for. He's a complete project at tight end. He was a converted quarterback who played some linebacker, then switched over to tight end finally. He made some great plays in the Arkansas-Alabama game, as did his teammate. Trey Flowers had a good game against Alabama as well, but A.J. Derby also said that Trey Flowers is by far the toughest guy he ever had to block against, and that was in practice, not even in a real game. But I like Derby a lot. He adds some depth there at tight end. I fully suspect him to be on the practice squad. I don't think you'll see him much this year. I think they're going to start working with him more. Great athleticism. He might finally be that move tight end we have wanted ever since the former number 81 of the New England Patriots had the murder problem. But I
hate when that happens.
Yeah, I have high expectations for him. I don't really say that often about a 6th-round pick. Like I said, you won't see him this year. Maybe next year you'll see him into the fold more. I think he will make some great plays in preseason. He'll be a fun player to watch. He'll get fans going. But again, don't expect to see Derby in the regular season.
Moving into the 7th round, 247th overall, cornerback Darryl Roberts, a.k.a. what are we calling him? Swag D?
Yeah, his
hashtag Swag D.
His Twitter handle is Swag D, so I want to coin hashtag, or not coin, but help advertise hashtag Swag Island. Instead of Revis Island, we're going to Swag Island with Darryl Roberts. Again, this is one of the guys that, like Byron Jones. Byron Jones had the lowest targeted QBR of anyone in college football last year. I think Darryl Roberts was number 2, which is kind of funny. He is, a corner that is going to go into the mix and, fight for a spot on the team. I like him. He's fast. He seems like he can cover guys pretty well in man coverage. I'm not sure about zone, but we'll see what they got in him. Hashtag Swag Island. He seems like a kid that, hopefully will come in and compete. I'm not saying he's going to be your starting left corner day one.
Absolutely not. I think he's going to be one of those guys, kind of like another Malcolm Brown, shows up at practice, works hard, and then, or Malcolm Butler, excuse me.
He's got Brown.
So many Malcolms.
What can Brown do for you?
So many Malcolms on my mind right now.
Right.
But no, I feel like Malcolm Butler did the same thing where he kind of just came in and was like, I'm just going to, work hard in practice and, you see how the hard work pay off, and when they had a go-to goal line situation, they threw him in saying, all right, this play, go. And I feel like that's the same thing Darryl Roberts is going to do. He's going to come in, and Bill likes to keep these guys around for a little bit, and if he sees something in them, the light bulb goes off, he brings them up. If not, who knows? He only spent a 7th round on him. And then the final pick of the draft's 253rd overall, linebacker Xzavier Dickson from Alabama.
Yeah, I don't really know much about him. All I know is it's kind of cool. One of his
all we know is Bill and Saban are
there you
good
go.
friends.
Alabama guy. I got to figure like that roll tide roll. I think Dante Hightower will like that pick a little bit. He was tweeting out congrats every time an Alabama guy went. But the thing I liked about him is honestly in one of his headshots he was wearing a Red Sox hat in one of his pictures. So hey, it's nice to get a guy that likes the Red Sox in here. We'll see.
Bring in the local dudes, bro.
I gotta imagine he's a camp body. We'll see if he makes it. 7th round picks haven't really lasted well in the past couple of years. I'm not saying Julian Edelman. Yeah, I know, but the past couple of years, last year I think they took a kid. Oh my goodness, what was his name? He was a slot receiver out of Michigan. I can't remember his name right now, but he ended up not making the team.
I can't remember. Was this last year? I can look it up.
It was last year. I need to.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
Yeah, don't give me a hint. I don't want you to tell me it totally.
All right, I found him. What do you want as a hint?
His first initial was last name.
G. It's also a size of milk.
Jeremy Gallen.
There you go. Wide receiver, Michigan, round 7, number 21. Yeah. Did he not make it past the practice roster?
No, he didn't make the team. I don't even think he made the practice squad. I think he was a final cut. I think he made it to the last weekend, the last round of cuts. But so there it is. That's the 2015 class of New England Patriots. Overall, I was pretty happy. They addressed needs. Again, one of the things that I said earlier was that in one of these podcasts towards the end, I didn't think that they looked at cornerback as a huge position of need. I think that there's a lot of guys in-house they liked, and I really thought they were going to go a lot of defensive line, a lot of linebackers, and they did. Malcom Brown, Grissom, Trey Flowers, even Xzavier Dickson and Matthew Wells. Those are all guys you're going to go in the front 7. They did add some defensive backs, Jordan Richards, Darryl Roberts, obviously. But, and then the big guys in the middle that, we both like, Tre Jackson and Shaq Mason. I really thought this was a great draft. And, hey, any draft that you Patriots get a long snapper from Navy, it's hard for me to dislike. So I guess if I had to give an overall grade to this draft, without seeing these guys step foot on the field with Patriots jerseys, I would probably have to give it I'll give it a B+, only because the Jordan Richards pick confused me, and again, I hate saying it, but I really thought in the 3rd or 4th round they could have got a pretty decent wide receiver, and they didn't. We're going to talk here in a second about some undrafted free agents that might play wide receiver, but I was really still looking for a wide receiver to get added to this team. Not that you need it that badly, but a guy to develop behind LaFell, Amendola, and Edelman, because I really do think that Amendola will leave after this year.
No, yeah, I agree with you 100%. B+ is going to be my grade as well. NFL.com gave them a B. Just personally, the Homer wagon, I think, is what's adding the plus to us. They made a lot of solid picks.
I mean, I think the thing that does it for me is the fact that they had an A+ home run grand slam win this World Series with the with their first round pick. The fact that whether they didn't really do anything, they just kind of sat there and took the guy. But the fact that Malcom Brown fell to them, a guy that I think Mel Kiper and Todd McShay both had him as right around the 15th ranked prospect.
They had him like top 20, top 15.
So I just think that he's a guy that can make a huge impact, and to draw comparisons to Vince Wilfork even more, the only reason Vince came to New England is because he dropped in a similar fashion. So it's eerie.
I would have given them maybe a bit of more of a grade. Maybe if they had, I don't know. Well, I don't know what they could have done differently to give them a better grade. I think it's just the issue of where they picked. The 2nd and 4th rounders, and granted they were smart to get those guys in the 4th round, but it's also kind of playing with fire there when you're waiting for those guys to drop when they're still available at that 64th pick instead of who they got. I would have loved to see Tre Jackson go that early, but we still have Tre Jackson, and we still have Trey Flowers, we still have Shaq Mason, all these guys we picked late who should have been picked a little bit earlier in our opinion. But just for the sake of giving us a heart attack, a B+, maybe a very, very close to A-. But yeah, that's our personal grade, at least for the draft. And now we move on to the undrafted free agents, those who were joining the team after the draft. that wide receiver you were talking about that we were looking for. Oddly enough, a quarterback out of Michigan, Devin Gardner, another quarterback turned wide receiver, much akin to my favorite player, Julian Edelman. Plus from Michigan, which is where Tom Brady was from. So kind of a combination of the two, maybe?
Yeah, he's a big guy, 6'3", 6'4". He's pretty good with the ball in space. You saw him do it. I didn't watch much college football, but it's kind of funny. I think he wore like 98 or 99, so he kind of instantly stood out as a quarterback with that kind of weird of a number. But no, he's a big kid. You got to imagine that since he's a quarterback, he should have a pretty good idea of how to run routes. I really do like quarterbacks that do switch to wide receiver because they understand, what it's like being a quarterback, and I got to figure that really helps them, understand the route tree and, get into the playbook even better. I don't really have much expectation for him. I think that he'll be good camp competition. I hope that he lights the fire under Aaron Dobson because I still think that Dobson has great potential. I think that he has all the attributes you want in an outside receiver, but he just doesn't have the mindset for it. But Devin Gardner should be good competition in at camp. And, hey, if he wins a spot on the team, then, I'm not complaining. 6'3", another red zone threat, why not?
I'm pulling for him to really take that because I didn't even read his thing here on Pat's Pulpit, but as soon as I looked, they said exactly what I did. He's basically a mix of the last quarterback the Patriots took from Michigan and the last quarterback that the Patriots converted to wide receiver. He's Tom Edelman, Julian Brady. What can go wrong? I'm in love with it. I'm pulling for him. Next, a center out of Georgia, David Andrews, 6'3", 295, 3-year starter and a team leader.
Yeah, this is another guy I actually had on my big board, so I was pretty pumped that I got one undrafted free agent. I like Devin Andrews a lot. He was actually a Remington Award finalist, which is the top offensive lineman in the nation. Maybe it's interior offensive line, I'm not sure, or center. It's something like that. But the fact is, he can flat out play. I got to imagine that he might be a Ryan Wendell replacement as that backup center if Wendell doesn't show up at camp as well. He had a good year last year, specifically the Lions game. I thought that he played extremely well. But, more depth at offensive line. You see what can happen if one guy goes down, the mixing and matching. I hope that David Andrews makes the practice squad just for that. He's Dante Scarnecchio spent a lot of time with him, I believe, at Georgia's Pro Day. Or, a big high-up Patriots personnel guy really looked at David Andrews. That's why I had him on my list. That's why I had him as one of my favorites. Like you said, team leader, Remington Award finalist. Not a whole lot to dislike about the kid.
Looking at another undrafted free agent, a cornerback out of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB, Jimmy Jean, 6'2", 200 pounds. UAB is now shutting down, and people are drawing comparisons not only in his play style, but also because of UAB, or at least their football program, shutting down, to this year's version of Kyle Arrington.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6'2", 200.
Yep.
That's a big kid. I don't know a lot about him. I know that his name sounds like Jimmy Dean, so it kind of makes me like
Jimmy
him already.
Jean.
But no, a big cornerback, why not? You lost Brandon Browner. Maybe this guy can play some press coverage against tight ends if you need him to. Maybe a project guy. I'm not sure, but hey, defensive backs. The way that Bill probably looked at it is, hey, you got to accept your own weaknesses sometime. Why not bring in a bunch of guys, throw a bunch of darts at the dartboard, see which ones stick, and go with them? Why not?
Casario was at his pro day too. So.
Oh, good. But then a guy that we can talk about really, we'll wrap it up here because really I don't know much about these guys. Obviously, undrafted free agents, you got to really dig deep to get all these guys. But Chris Harper, you got him on there? No,
I do. He's at the bottom.
Yep.
I don't know why he's
Chris
not.
Harper. I think it's a misspell on the site that I'm on, but Chris Harper, wide receiver out of California. He made some pretty good catches. I saw a little bit of highlights of him.
Similar prospect to Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah. So kind of a move guy. Probably has pretty decent speed. Again, another wide receiver they brought in. Wide receiver is one of those positions where I think that you can really draw up and you can get guys open with certain plays.
And he's also that typical 5'11" Patriots build that they love with their wide receivers.
Short, shifty wide receiver. Why not bring them all in? The last guy I have on this list, Brandon King, defensive back out of Auburn. Again, throw all the darts at the dartboard, see which ones stick, and go with it from there.
So we'll move into some rapid fire questions to end the show. Just non-Patriot stuff, like just all over draft stuff. Cody's laid out some questions. So we can get into other things not Patriots related because we are NFL fans, not just Patriots fans. So go ahead, Cody. You had some questions that we're going to answer.
So the first question we'll go with is, what is your non-Patriots favorite first-round pick and why?
You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. It kills me to say it, but Leonard Williams going to the Jets at number 6. I think that's a complete steal for a guy that is as talented as Leonard Williams. You know, a lot of people said he's Richard Seymour 2.0. I don't know about that, but I know that the kid can flat out play. And you add him to a defensive line that already features Sheldon Richardson and Muhammad Wilkerson. Now with cornerbacks Darrell Revis and Antonio Cromartie back there. Todd Bowles, great defensive mind coach coming from Arizona. I think the Jets are no laughing matter. I think they're going to be a team that fights for a playoff spot, and it would not surprise me in the least if you get a Patriot-Jets playoff matchup in Foxborough this season.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier that I thought the Bills were going to be scarier, but with that pick, the Jets are moving up in my eyes. My favorite pick, my favorite non-Patriot first-round pick would have to be Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver from USC, to the Eagles at the 20th pick. Because you and I have been talking a lot about Chip Kelly and what he's doing in Philadelphia. We've talked a lot with our friend Spencer on Sportsmanlike Conduct about what we feel Chip Kelly's doing, bringing in all these quarterbacks. I think he's got something up his sleeve, and with all these quarterbacks to choose from, I'm really hoping it's Tebow, but that's just me. I'm a homer for Tebow. I feel like Aguilar is going to be really great in this system. Kelly saw something he liked in him, and we'll see how he fits in with the plan.
Yeah, he should be a good piece in there. And also, a quick other Eagles note is Chip Kelly was on a radio interview, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and they asked him, was it safe for Philadelphia area retailers to start selling Sam Bradford jerseys? His answer, yes.
Oh, no. Here we go.
So it looks like Bradford will be, if not the starting quarterback in Philly, he at least will be there for a couple years.
All right.
A quarterback going forward. But
next question.
Next question we'll have is the biggest surprise. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the first round, but what do you think what was the biggest surprise?
Biggest surprise for me is, a team like the Colts, they've been in the limelight in the playoffs for quite some time, and they just can't quite get there. And you're like, okay, well, you think they're a smart team to get to this point, over and over and over, trading away Peyton Manning and getting Andrew Luck. This team is no slouch. They know what they're doing for the most part. But I digress. When you have a pick and Malcom Brown, who is a player that would fit your team perfectly and help you out in the playoffs defending the run, when you're looking at him, and you pass him up for a wide receiver, another hashtag weapon for Andrew Luck, that actually surprised me a lot. But it was a pleasant surprise because the Patriots got Malcom Brown out of that. So
Colts going to do Colts things. Could you say that the Colts might have dropped the ball there, like they might also do in Deflategate? That should come out soon.
I'm really
we'll
hoping.
get there.
I'm really hoping it comes out with a conviction against the Colts. I'm going to go on a damn rampage.
I got a funny feeling next week's show we'll be talking about the Deflategate results, but that's just me.
Hot takes.
My biggest surprise, maybe not so much a surprise, but I thought it was a surprise. You see two teams in the Saints and the Packers taking quarterbacks in this draft. It was a relatively weak quarterback draft. Even the top two, I don't really think either of those guys are going to be franchise guys to go on from here on out.
Winston and Mariota.
Right. So the Saints in round 3, pick 11, took Garrett Grayson out of Colorado State, and the Packers actually the pick they traded with New England for New England's pick, round 5, pick 11, 147 overall, take Brett Hundley. Drew Brees, I understand more of why the Saints want to take him. They actually took the third quarterback off the board in Garrett Grayson. But the Packers pick is a little interesting. Brett Hundley, a guy that a lot of experts actually say could be the second best or even the best quarterback in this draft class. The fact that, he runs a more pro-style set. He doesn't have the issues that Winston does. Aaron Rodgers, has shown some deterioration issues. He's been getting hurt the past couple of years. By no means do I think Hundley will replace him anytime soon, but I think it was just a curious pick and, something to keep an eye on going forward. And with our third question about the actual draft, we're going to go with biggest laugh, most laughable pick or non-pick that came out of this weekend.
Well, I feel like the Colts would have been a perfect candidate for that, but I'm going to take one out of left field. This is something I've been really hyped and interested in. This story of Shane Ray ended up going 23rd overall in the first round to the Broncos with the pick they got from the Lions, and it just made me laugh because everyone was all so excited. ESPN was freaking out about a weed guy going to a state where weed is legal. But it's not a legal issue for the most part. It's an NFL issue. The NFL has a substance abuse policy, quote unquote abuse, and I seriously think that before you need to hype up Shane Ray going to Toke City, Denver, I feel like you need to address the situation with the NFL and their view on marijuana. I feel like it needs to be changed. I feel like it's incorrect. And I feel like your hype about Shane Ray going there just because of that is quite silly. You could talk about so many things. He's a defensive end. The Broncos have been known to be that juggernaut team in the last couple of years who then tank in the playoffs. They could use that extra help on the defensive line. But I'm just saying, it was funny to me to hear the guys on ESPN radio, because I was driving home when that happened, to freak out about him going to Denver. As a lot of people actually thought he was going to go to Seattle as well. They thought he was going to drop all the way down to the 31st pick, but then the Seahawks, or where the Seahawks might have been able to trade back in because their pick was originally gone. But no, I think it was a decent pick, but it was laughable that people were freaking out so much about it.
No, I think it's pretty laughable, and I think it's justified. I disagree with you on the marijuana thing. I think that the NFL is a business. It's a company. It can set its own guidelines. If you don't want to follow them, you can get out. Just like other companies do it, whether or not it's legal or not in the United States, whether or not, even if it is legal across America, if the NFL still doesn't want that policy, then they have the right to not allow that policy. But anyways, I thought I was one of those people that were laughing, hashtag Toke City, hashtag, all that funny stuff. I think it's laughable. Shane Ray is a good player. You've seen a couple defensive ends come out of Missouri specifically.
Also, a laughable moment is the fact that they said he was going to drop out of the first round, and I was like, ha, good one, guys.
I really thought he was going to stick in the top 10, but anyways, oh my goodness, Michael Sam, he was once a, SEC Defensive Player of the Year defensive end coming out of Missouri, really hasn't done anything in the NFL, so I would hold the phone with defensive ends coming out of Missouri. You see them do well in college, and then when they get to the pros, kind of fall off. Classic Broncos. I think they traded up. They lost one of their offensive linemen. Peyton Manning's going to have a rough year. I think that they aren't going to keep him on his feet. I don't know if old Noodle Arm is going to finish the season. But my biggest laugh of this draft was the fact the Bills did not take a quarterback. And not only that, but as of right now, the list that I'm looking at which is a pretty comprehensive list of undrafted free agents, I don't see them even bringing in a quarterback that was undrafted. So I think it's laughable. Sexy Rexy doing sexy Rexy things. He's going to go with Matt Castle and EJ Manuel, which is, just funny to me. Unless it maybe, I heard Drew Brees was on the market. Maybe they make a trade for him. I can't see it happening now, but it will look like a Matt Castle, EJ Manuel quarterback tandem in Buffalo. That defense looks great. They have the pieces on offense, but they don't have the most important piece in the quarterback calling the shots and throwing the ball, which is going to hurt them, I think.
Another interesting thing I didn't even notice because I was at work when this was happening, but looking at that first round, the Browns traded back into the first round and got some really good players, and that's they got Danny Shelton, the nose tackle, and then they traded back in for Cam Irving.
Well, no, they were still in because that was the first-round pick that they traded with.
Really?
That Buffalo didn't have a first-round pick because they traded up to get Sammy Watkins, and the Browns ended
up
getting. So
that's hilarious.
So the Browns had a really good first round. They got two big players on both sides of the ball. Two guys that I wanted the Patriots to look into, Danny Shelton and then Cam Irving. They did pretty well.
Yeah. So we would give them a pretty good draft grade, at least for the first round.
So, and then our final question, me and Brandon both agree on it, obviously, being at the University of Maine. Our favorite undrafted free agent story so far is DeMar Altman, wide receiver from Maine, signing with the Dolphins. As much as it kills me that he's going to go play for Miami and, probably not get much better quarterback play with Ryan Tannehill because I think he stinks. The fact that DeMar will get a shot at the pros, I really hope he makes the team. Miami's a team that, they had a lot of wide receiver issues coming into this offseason. Mike Wallace, they were looking to move. They ended up trading him. He's a guy that I think can make the team. They just signed Greg Jennings. I think that DeMar Altman is a better receiver than Greg Jennings right now. I think that Greg Jennings is old. I think DeMar is young. He's fast. He's got good hands.
He put the team on his back,
the team on his back. He's got special teams value. I'm really pulling for DeMar to make the team. If not, I hope he gets cut and I hope he comes to New England because I really do think that he can be a solid player in the NFL. Will he be this phenom like Victor Cruz, an undrafted free agent from a Northeast college? I don't think so. But hey, you never know. I'm cheering for the kid. I think that he's got potential to be a solid NFL player, and I wish him the best in Miami, as much as it kills me to say that.
The put the team on his back was a Greg Jennings reference. I'll have to show you that video later. But no, I definitely think he would be a huge asset to the Dolphins and the Patriots just in special teams alone. We've seen him return some nasty returns here at Alphonse Stadium at UMaine, and I hate to say I hope he gets cut, but I really do because I hope he gets cut and the Patriots say, look, this guy, they don't see the potential in him, and then they grab him and take him right up, bring that local guy in. I would love to see him, love to see DeMar in a Patriots uniform. But that's going to do it for our show. Next week when we come back, Cody thinks we might be talking about Deflategate. We'll have to see what the news breaks this week. We'll get into some more AFC East previews. Like we said, the Jets are looking a little bit more scary now. The Bills are starting to put things together, even though they still have Sexy Rexy behind the helm now.
If no Deflategate, I think that we might start to sneak into our kind of like positional grouping reviews of what this team will be going forward. Maybe project, certain players that should make the 53-man roster, how they'll be used. Maybe see, what those players will do in 2015 and, maybe how they will help the Patriots in their title defense run.
And with that, we will end our episode. We'll see you again next week, probably recording on Tuesday instead of Monday. But for Cody LaChance, I'm Brendan Polai. We're saying see you next week, and go Pats.